Our first lesson this morning is from the book of Proverbs. Proverbs is one of the books of wisdom literature found in the Hebrew scriptures. Wisdom is always female. She was created at the beginning of God's work. She was daily God's delight, rejoicing before him always. The instructions of woman wisdom would have been viewed as those of God. Therefore, she is to be listened to carefully and her precepts taken to heart. Hear these words from the New Revised Standard Version, Update Edition of the Bible. Wisdom cries out in the street. In the squares, she raises her voice. At the busiest corner, she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates, she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing and fools hate knowledge? Give heed to my reproof. I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called and you refused, have stretched out my hand and no one heeded, and because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when panic strikes you. When panic strikes you like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. Then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me. Because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all my reproof, therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and be sated with their own devices. For waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But those who listen to me will be secure and will live at ease without dread of disaster. Hear what the Spirit is saying.
The second scripture lesson today is from the letter of James. James consistently focuses on practical action in the life of faith. In this way, it is reminiscent of the wisdom literature in the Old Testament, encouraging God's people to act like God's people. The pages of James are filled with direction on pursuing a life of holiness. And here in chapter 3, James addresses the potential dangers of the untamed tongue. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers and sisters, for you know that we who teach will face stricter judgment. For all of us make many mistakes, and anyone who makes no mistakes in speaking is mature, able to keep the whole body in check with the bridle. If we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we guide their whole bodies. Or look at ships, though they are so large and are driven by so strong winds, yet they are guided by a very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs. See also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great exploits. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is fire. The tongue is placed among our members as a world of iniquity. It stains the whole body, sets on fire the cycle of life, and is itself set on fire by hell. For every species of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by the human species. but no one can tame the tongue. A restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless the Lord and Father, and with it we curse people made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth comes a blessing and a curse. My brothers and sisters, this ought not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and brackish waters? Can a fig tree, my brothers and sisters, yield olives, or a grapevine figs? No more can salt water yield fresh. This ends our reading from the letter of James. May it be blessed to our understanding. Well, I think many of you would call that piece of schoolyard bravado, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me." And long ago, when I would be in recess chanting that at someone calling me names, it was unlikely that sticks and stones would actually be involved in settling a playground tiff. But today, who knows? Children of all ages, including the adults among us, have probably thought or said sticks and stones, only to be devastated by the sharp tongue of a bully or the insensitive remark of a parent or teacher. Names hurt. No stones necessary, no sticks in evidence. Just a shaming verbal put down that somehow lodges in the psyche and leaves a hurt so deep it becomes part of who we are. Teachers will tell you stories of children coming to school reeling from the aftershocks of a parental tongue lashing. A teacher's husband wrote, "Last month my wife began her 17th year teaching second grade, and so our dinner conversations have included stories about her new class. Cute kids and smart kids. Academic challenges, behavioral problems, anxious parents, and peanut allergies. And one girl's story made me cringe. When little Melanie couldn't do her work, my wife asked why, and she said, 'My dad yelled at me last night because I couldn't get to sleep.' It turns out Melanie's mother is in jail, so Melanie is not feeling very secure. A self-portrait the little girl drew pictured an angry child with eyes squeezed shut and bared teeth. I don't think Melanie's dad helped her to get to sleep. And of course, teachers, those people James says must be beyond reproach, are also capable of delivering shattering blows, aren't they? Cowing their students by saying, "What is wrong with you? You'll never amount to anything." And wherever the tongue runs amok, especially in the tongues of those meant to be loved and respected role models like parents and teachers, children, even adult children, are hurt, and they are demoralized and shamed into thinking something is deeply wrong with them. They have not yet developed the awareness that the more hurtful the remark, the more likely it is a reflection of the speaker's chip on their shoulder, the projection of personal failings and insecurity that has nothing to do with the object of their scorn. Words have a great deal to do with why I go weeks without watching television. I am waiting for the return of All Creatures Great and Small. I stopped watching network and cable news a long time ago. And every once in a while, I'll look at a clip online and I'll wonder, What happened to Walter Cronkite, Chet Huntley, David Brinkley, the newscasters I grew up with, concerned but unruffled, and seeking a balanced approach to the day's events? Now we live in a culture where verbal attack is expected and astonishingly celebrated. Newscasters and radio commentators become famous because of their snarky entertainment value. They are admired because they are good at attacking others, and often they attack with misinformation or deliberately twisted facts. Wisdom responds, "They shall eat the fruit of their way and be sated with their own devices." Now, as we all know, in an election year, restraint of pen and tongue flies out the window. Glimpsing and cringing at Tuesday's debate, even while I had it on mute, with the New York Times commentators' posts as a guide, I was appalled to find the Times tracking attacks. They actually had a chart showing how often and for how long the candidates spent attacking each other. Now, is this what civil debate has come to? Is this how we interpret election speech, keeping track of sticks and stones? And so it goes. Thoughtlessness and ignorance are considered entertainment, and our children and our grandchildren think this is the news. And I know from listening to the millennials in my life, they are rapidly becoming disgusted with the whole thing. So-called reality shows depict selfish, irresponsible, and even immoral people saying incredibly unconscionable things, and their ratings soar. How great a forest is set ablaze by a small fire, writes James in his meditation on the tongue. A small rudder capable of steering a great ship, a small member of the body which blesses God one minute and curses the people around them the next. She may be impossible to hear with all those tongues wagging at once, but wisdom cries out until she is blue in the face. She finds us in the streets, in the marketplace, in the ordinary moments of our lives. How long, you simple ones, will you love being simple? She issues a warning worth taking to heart. The longer we ignore her call, the greater the calamities we will bring upon ourselves, and it will be no one's fault but our own. Climate change and its cascading effects come immediately to my mind. How long will we continue to ignore the urgency and act like our house isn't burning down? How long, therefore, will it be until we are fighting over water rights? Truth doesn't seem to be what sells, or perhaps it is too uncomfortable to hear. It doesn't get people elected to office these days, or to be chair of the board, and that's what our children and grandchildren are learning. Wisdom warns, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and be sated with their own devices. What goes around comes around. Willful ignorance and lying tongues do not teach truth, and they certainly don't witness to love. Wisdom knows the consequences. Now, wisdom mentions fear of the Lord here, and a phrase worth examining because it is often misinterpreted and much misused in some circles. It can be used as a hammer to keep people in line. What I think of as lightning bolt theology. Break a commandment and bam, the Lord is going to smite you. When wisdom proclaims the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom, she is not saying live in sniveling terror before the throne of God. This phrase is ancient code for a loving and proper relationship of humanity with God and creation. It is awe, respect, and obedience. It means being humble enough to know we are in need of guidance, and therefore nurturing within ourselves a teachable spirit. People who fear the Lord have their feet planted firmly on the ground. They attempt to distinguish truth from falsehood. They promote justice and live in harmony with God and God's intention for all creation. Perhaps what wisdom and James are asking us to consider is the fruit of listening more and talking less. Listening is not thinking about that pithy remark you will make when another person is finished speaking. Listening is being able to repeat what another has said to you in a way that shows you have made your best effort and care enough to really, really understand what that person has said, whether you agree with it or not. And therefore, it results in speech which is free to ask questions, not just affirm what you believe are the right answers. Our music director at the Annisquam Village Church, where I was the pastor, and I were talking about Bach one day, and she shared a quote from the music-loving Einstein. Did you know that he was such a great lover of music? And he spoke about the prodigious composer. Einstein said, "This is what I have to say about Bach's life work. Listen, play, love, revere, and keep your mouth shut." Words to live by. For how can you appreciate the music or the human being that is sitting next to you without listening, playing, loving, revering, and allowing for silence? And how much more so with God? The good news, the very good news, is we have a choice. God presents us with a choice every morning and in every moment. Will we follow wisdom's call and nurture and value a teachable spirit in ourselves and in others? Or will we succumb to an easier path, perhaps, of self-deception or worse, complacency? Will we be quick to listen and slow to speak? Or will we be quick to speak and slow to listen? The effects of our choices will ripple like still water responding to a stone which breaks its surface. Those ripples will spread from generation to generation, multiplying in effect. Choose life. Choose wisdom's ways, for her instruction can overcome complacency, unbind closed-heartedness, and destabilize the deceit rampant in our world. Those who listen to wisdom's words will live at ease without dread of disaster, she promises. They will understand justice and equity and every good path. Wisdom is often portrayed as leading a dance, a circle of light and community. She is the whole that lives in every part, the circle in which we dance, the relentless summons to communion in which we sleep and in which we wake. Wisdom invites each of you to take her hand and join her dance, and in doing so, become a friend to all and a friend of God and prophets. Amen.